Hey everyone, this is Brian here from Massey's Main Entertainment with a series that we like to call Was This Album Really That Awful? Or Was This Album Really That Good? And today I think there's going to be a little bit more focus on the awful, kind of swinging back around to that one. I think we did a couple good ones in a row, and we're going to focus on that. I'm again joined by my buddies here, Rich Strickler. Say hi, everybody.
Oh,
Doc, say hi to everybody.
hello.
Yeah, you got to say hi to all those people who are still using like a 56K dial-up too, because Nickelback was like in the heart of still using dial-up when you're trying to get on the internet. Rich, Doc, and I are part of the Authentic Music Hall of Fame as well. That's featured over on Rich's channel, where we induct bands into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Be sure to check those videos out. And Rich and I also participate in a CD exchange every Friday on his channel with Glenn Kellaway, Randy Nelson, and the Canadian stud muffin Larry Graves. So also check those videos out. We've had a couple of really good ones up there. I think you would enjoy. So, okay, so we're going to make it all about the awful today, gentlemen. And I can remember this band being one of the most downloaded bands on Napster or LimeWire or any of those other file sharing networks in the early 2000s. But then something just kind of turned on its head, and the hate got so incredible for this band. An entire North American nation began to disavow them. And I'm speaking, of course, of Nickelback and their mega hit album, Silver Side Up. Silver Side Up was released in the fall of 2001 through Roadrunner Records, a label notorious for promotion of hard rock and metal bands. And this Silver Side Up was their third album launched by Nickelback, and just propelled them into the stratosphere of, popularity, selling nearly 10 million copies worldwide. The album spawned 3 hit singles. I say that term loosely, which got some airplay on rock, pop, and even all alternative rock stations as well. I can definitely remember that. And the hit single, How You Remind Me, sold over 5 million copies worldwide. It's all by itself. A note, that song would be the last true rock song to ever top the Billboard chart to this date. So, gentlemen, I will always take the last word on these videos. So, Doc, I am going to let you go first on this one today.
Here we go. Thanks very much for the Nickelback kickoff, everybody. That's awesome. I guess I'll try to start with, in a lot of senses, this is 90s music and stuff like this, right? And it's got the 90s vibe, that's for sure. So I think the early 2000s, right, when it came out. So for me, musically, it has a lot of things that I should like a lot more than I do. Got some pretty cool power chords in it. Guitar riffs are pretty heavy at times, sometimes pretty catchy. It starts off that way. That first tune, Never Again, that's pretty catchy little tune, man. Not a bad little power rock kind of song, kind of stuff like this. But How You Remind Me was the big hit that followed that on the album as you go through it and stuff. It wasn't a bad song, man. What can I tell you? And then I think it's Woke Up This Morning after it, another power thing. And then it really just goes on this power kind of kick throughout the album when it does go to it. There's some softer stuff and stuff like that, but not really a pullback that you do. A typical album would be set up where it goes, give me a couple slow songs in here, give me some power stuff in here. After a while, you listen to this. I listened to it 3 times, man. I think I got to give it a fair shake every time I do these things. So even though I haven't listened to this one or bits and pieces of this one in God knows how long, it all sounds the same. And he sounds, what's this guy's name? Chad. The singer there, Chad Kroeger. I think he just sounds pissed off when he starts singing every time. And every time you hear a song, it sounds like before you even get into the tune, almost sometimes he's yelling at you what's going on in the song almost when it's coming at you and stuff like that. It almost distracts away from whatever may or may not be good in that song. You're not going to get into it because you've been distracted by going someplace else. The power chords in it, it's sometimes pretty good. Sometimes the whole back half of the album I got down as blah. My notes on the back half of the button, blah. It's all vocally similar. Lyrically, it's there's some pretty good lyrics to it. Some of these things, some of them do have some pretty good meaning. How You Remind Me. It's not a bad little lyrical tune that's got some meaning behind it and stuff like that. But it's not an album I want to do much on the lyrical digging on either, to be honest with you. So, um, just four. I mean, that's 4 minutes I'll never get back in my life. I don't know why I listened to that 3 times, that song. So, listen, it's got that sound. It's a Nickelback sound. If you like Nickelback, good for you. Then you like this sound. To me, this is just almost like a I categorize it as a blah album. It doesn't bring. I never need to listen to this again. This is where I put this. I have this, is it really crappy and awful and everything else? No, it's not that bad, but I got it down as a 5.25, buddy, and that's where it's going to land.
Wow. Okay. Rich, what do you got?
Well, this is a band that I've never paid attention to at all my whole life, so I missed that whole late 90s, 2000s era of music. I just wasn't listening to the radio. I wasn't buying CDs. I got turned off by what was going on. It just became oversaturated with crap that I wasn't interested in. Also, this is a first listen for me for Nickelback. And I almost feel sorry for that generation of young people because this is the music they had to deal with. And I just think it's awful. Flat out awful. I mean, Doc's right about the first couple of songs. The opening track, Never Again, lyrically it's about domestic violence, that type of thing. The second one has more hooks. How Do You Remind Me? Supposedly their signature song, which I didn't. But it's kind of an anthem for those stuck in a bad relationship and brooding about it. Woke Up This Morning. It was just dreck for me. All these songs are aimless angst. I can't believe it's a 6 times platinum in the U.S. as far as selling records and CDs back in those days. And then it goes on. I agree with what Doc said. Everything's pretty much the same after that. Too Bad is a song that's just a poppy chorus with a bunch of cluttered music in the background that I can't relate to. And then we have Just For, an onslaught of dismissible noise. It just irritates me. Hollywood, Dime a Dozen song, Money Bought, Sludge. Where Do I Hate? By the time this song comes on, I got a migraine. I mean, really, honestly, and it gets worse from there. If you want to listen to more talented bands from that era, that well-crafted music, go to Soundgarden, go to Pearl Jam, go to Metallica even, but Nickelback just doesn't cut the mustard. I'm going to give this a 4.75.
Seems pretty fair. Yeah. I guess, I'd already mentioned about it being the last rock song to top the Billboard chart. I think a part of how bad rock music got is that pop music at the end of the 90s was just horrifically bad. It was horrifically bad. And that I don't know what rock felt like it had to do to survive, but I can tell you this, and in the short term, it seemed like a good idea, some of those bands they put out. But in the long term, I think they realized that they may have contributed to killing rock and roll just about in general. So I put down here, I found the album had pathetically bad riffs and horrible transitions between verses and choruses for the most part. Very sloppy and uninteresting lyrically. His voice drones to me. You mentioned that about Tom York last week, Rich, and I have to say that it happens the same with me with Kroger. He drones and moans, and I put down the lyrics are just vacuous stuff that I found myself just zoning out and thinking about what I needed to pick up at Walmart. I just didn't
Right.
I couldn't even jump into it. So I think it's very formulaic. It kind of echoes, those all the subsequent albums they released after that are all geared to get 20 to 28-year-old women to like rock and roll. That's what I felt like it was trying to do. A couple songs that I will mention is I think musically the song Woke Up This Morning was really good. I thought the riffs were good, put together well. It's just that when he sings, he destroyed the song, and because the lyrics meant nothing and his voice was just him doing his typical screechy type stuff. And about the first half of the last track, Good Times Gone, I liked it musically, the first half, but then they started going right back to their same old trope at about the 2.5 minute mark. and I just couldn't get into it again. I listened to this album 3 times, and one of those times was this morning, and it was punishing to me. I can't see me ever in the rest of my life that I live. I don't know how long that's going to be, ever listening to this album ever again. I've got the same score as Rich. I got a 4.75 on this album.
Wow. Doc, you were being kind. I'll say that.
Maybe I was, and at 5.25 is, like it's a middle of the road, never listened to album for me, man. So that's
it's fair for what this is, for sure.
Yeah, I think we were all fair about it,
We're all hovering around that 5, that 5 zone.
Absolutely. So
I like the power chords just a tad more than you did, Brian. That's all.
Yeah. So you're a rock and roll guy, and you should. I mean, that should happen, Yeah. But this is just really not for me in any way, shape, or form. So, and I can't blame it all on them. There was a lot of schlock rock, as you know, coming out in the early 2000s. Was just terrible for those types of bands being released and pushed by the record stores. And, back when they were still charging $20 for a CD that had one good song, and they wondered what happened to the industry. But that's part of it. You release schlock, charge $20, so somebody can listen to one piece of schlock. I mean, that's not going to last. That's not going to be a marketing tool. But anyway, that's what we got for this particular one of was this album really that awful? And the consensus seems to be, you damn right it was. It was terrible. So look for our upcoming videos next week, maybe a little bit later, maybe 10 days down the road. Both taking a little bit of hiatus and trying some different videos out as well. But I'll put a poll up and see which bands you might be interested in us covering. And then we'll kind of go from there and see how we fill it out. So until next time, everybody, take care out there. See you later.
Peace out.
Later.